guide of our youth, lead thou thy children unto light and truth. Thee when death summons us, others shall praise. Hail Pennsylvania through endless days.
Good morning, everyone. Dean Nora Lewis, distinguished faculty, colleagues, and fellow honored guests, and Senator Christopher Coons, and of course, the class of 2019. I'm John Lipinski, one of the faculty directors of the Fels Institute of Government and the University of Pennsylvania, and it is my great privilege and honor to share this very special moment with you. What a perfect venue and day for this special event. I want to apologize up front because this is my happy and enthusiastic face. We're assembled here today to celebrate the Fels graduates of the class of 2019. To all the family and friends with us today, I know you feel very proud to witness this crowning achievement in these students' lives. It's a very big deal. Please join me in congratulating the Fels class of 2019. These students make me proud to be one of the faculty directors of a program committed to public service. When these students applied to Fels, they came with a sense of purpose, an ambition to do good work in the public sector, and a conviction to make the world a better place. They came with a commitment to put others before themselves and to make a social impact, and of course, to do whatever it takes to accomplish these goals. Public service is a calling, and our students have dedicated themselves to the pursuit of the public good. The hours can be long, but this work is vital, I think more vital than ever today for our society, and it gives them a sort of a clear purpose in life. At Fels, you complemented your passion for public service with a set of important skills needed to fulfill your career ambitions and to advance the public good. You've learned the art of public finance. You learned data analytics, communications, collaboration, and the application of rigorous analysis to the practical problems that the public sector faces today. Government and public sector organizations need administrators who understand the context impacting their work and how to apply rigorous analysis to solve persistent policy challenges and how to put these solutions into practice. In short, they need you. Graduates, this is a pivotal moment for you. You've overcome countless challenges and persevered through the rigors of a graduate education. And today you must feel like these challenges maybe are over, and you should indeed celebrate this huge accomplishment. But as you rest, I wrote as you rest in there, but there's really no rest. And prepare for your next move, I hope that your excitement builds, for this is just the beginning. Today you join the next generation of public leaders who will make the world a safer, healthier, and better place to live, and I'm convinced that you will do that. We honor you today for your achievements thus far and cannot wait to see how you help to shape this world for the better. Again, thank you. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the recipient of our 2019 Teaching Award, Carl Mageri. Just a word about the Teaching Award. The Teaching Award is chosen each year by our graduating students and honors an outstanding instructor at Fels. I think there's no higher honor than to be picked by your students for this sort of award. Carl is himself a Fels graduate and has taught the Management Communication course in Wharton's MBA program for many years. When our longtime Fels instructor, beloved instructor, Buck Benedict, retired last year, His highest recommendation for who should take over this ever-popular public communications public speaking course was, of course, Carl. Carl has more than 20 years of experience in university administration and public affairs and nonprofit advocacy, and currently serves as the Senior Associate Director of the Wharton Communications Program, managing communication instruction for Wharton's Executive MBA program in San Francisco, of course, in addition to the great role that you have with us at Fels. Carl is known by his students to go above and beyond to support, encourage, and challenge his students uniquely as individuals. His thoughtful feedback and probing questions engages students to think deeper about their own learning as communicators, and also allows students to develop and express their own individual communication styles. Carl creates a meaningful learning space and fosters community in his class and exemplifies the balance of context, analysis, and practice that Fels strives to teach. Carl is a valued member of our Fels community, as demonstrated by this award. Through his instruction, our students leave with a new understanding and appreciation of what they are capable of as public leaders and communicators. We are honored to have Carl Maggieri as a part of our community and look forward to his work with our students for years to come. Please join me in congratulating Carl. Carl. To continue with our program and to introduce our graduation speakers, please join me in welcoming the co-faculty director of the Fels Institute of Government, Dr. Matthew Lewandowski.
Thanks everyone for joining us here today. My name is Matt Lewandowski and I'm John's counterpart here at Fels, and so I'm really grateful that everyone could join us for this extremely happy occasion. So first, I'd once again like to have everyone join me in congratulating our graduates. But just as important as congratulating our graduates is congratulating another really important group of people in this room, and that's the friends, family, and colleagues of our students, because I know, having done this now for many years here at Penn, you can't really do it without a supportive community around you. So graduates, please join me in congratulating your friends, family, and everyone else who's helped you along this way. So now I'd like to take a moment and recognize several of our graduating students who are receiving special awards today in recognition of their unique academic, leadership, and public service achievements during their time at Fels. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until everyone's name has been called. For the Academic Achievement Award, Katie Rothenberg and Lauren Vella. For the Institutional Service Award, Amon Goyle, Daniel Perez, and Madeline O'Brien. For the Public Service Award, Delia Springstrub, Alan Ramage, and Lauren Vella. For the John K. Parker Scholarship, Matthew Forrest. And finally, for the Audrey Miller Paritsky Leadership Prize, Madeline O'Brien. So congratulations everyone on those distinguished awards. Since 1937, the Fels Institute of Government has educated generations of distinguished public leaders. Their accomplishments are our legacy, and they are the authors of our history. I'm confident that this year's graduates will continue this tradition by writing their own chapter in the enduring history of Fels. Each individual graduating today has much to contribute to the public good. Today you'll hear from two of our graduates to get a small sample of the talent from this group. When you hear our student speakers, you will understand why I'm so confident of their future success. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our student commencement speakers, Molly Williamson, representing our full-time students, and Karen Demos, representing our executive students. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage. First year.
As Matt said, thanks to all of our mentors, family, and friends for getting us where we are today. Both you in front of us and the ones who couldn't be here with us today, we are forever grateful for your help. Be who you needed when you were younger. Have any of you ever heard that? Aisha Siddiqui wrote it, and it's always been one of my favorite statements. It's such a simple saying, but it's such a compelling image. Because really what it's saying is, remember what it felt like to be less powerful and use the power that you have now to be an advocate. The person that I was when I was younger was a really weird kid. I know it's hard to imagine, but just trust me on that. When my parents used to hug and I was a little kid, I would run and jam myself in between them and shout, "You may be the bread, but I'm the cheese!" Sorry, Mom and Dad. When people would say, "What do you want to be when you get older?" other kids would say, "A fireman or a ballerina." I would say a casserole, so I'd like to think that it was a metaphor, but really, your guess is as good as mine. Being a quirky kid makes for some really great lifelong anecdotes, but as you can probably imagine, it also sometimes makes it really hard to fit in. I spent a lot of time growing up feeling as though I didn't belong. People like to make you think that you outgrow this feeling when you get older, but as a weird kid who has grown into a weird adult, I'm here to tell you that's not actually the case. I'm pretty cool with myself in general. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Thanks, Kat and Mike. But when I first came to Fels, surrounded by so many smart and dynamic people who had done so many impressive things, there was that feeling again, that little voice saying, "You don't belong here." They had done some really massive things. I mean, they'd done Peace Corps and Teach for America. I'd worked in a bar for 10 years. They would share advice and strategies about political insights, and I would nod knowingly, and then I would quietly go and Google what they were talking about. They would confidently move through a networking event, and I sometimes locked myself in the toilet. So it was daunting, to say the least. There were definitely some bumps and bruises, tears and doubts along the way. But over the next 2 years, my professors and my peers taught me some really important lessons. First, we are all bringing strengths to the table that are unique and valuable. None of them are going to look the same, and so there's no point in comparing. Next, nothing substantial can ever be gained without the risk of failure. Third, when we inevitably falter and face that failure, we have a community of people who will support us and teach us and sometimes drag us, statistics, through our problems. Finally, nobody really has it together as much as they might seem when you first meet them. Sometimes I think about how wild it is that it took me 34 years to figure that out, and I wish that I could go back and whisper it to my younger self. As adults with full and busy lives, I don't think that we often make time to think about our younger selves. So, if you will all just humor me for one moment and close your eyes, I would like to make time for that right now. Who were you when you were younger? Who did you need? What advice would you whisper to your younger self? You can open your eyes now. What was your advice to yourself? Was it about compassion, justice, a sense of self, courage, maybe rethinking that ill-advised perm or rat tail? Rob? Just as we never really outgrow the weird kids that we once were, we also never outgrow the importance of these questions and the truth of this advice to ourselves. They are still relevant to us today as the adults that we've grown into, but more importantly, as we leave this program, as the leaders we're about to become. Public service has never faced as stern a test as it does today. The sentiment that I shared earlier, "you don't belong here," is echoed every day, not just internally with imposter syndrome, but institutionally. It exists in our legislation about our bodily autonomy, about our citizenship, about our gender identity. We have witnessed the impact of this sentiment on vulnerable populations. We've seen how doors have been shut on people in our communities and the ways in which policies haven't always reflected or protected everyone. We have come to this program to change that. Sandra Cisneros once wrote, "We do this because the world we live in is a house on fire and the people we love are burning." We are here because the world is on fire. We feel this urgency every day. We know change can't wait. As we leave Fels and scatter across the country and the globe, our futures are going to look very different, but our purpose remains the same. As public administrators, the people that we answer to will not be our employers, but the citizens around us. They are looking for proof that our government is one of the people, by the people, and most importantly, for the people. As we work, fight, figure things out, we must hold ourselves accountable every single day to uphold that. We are the change that we've been waiting for. Fels, class of 2019, as we head out and take the world onto our shoulders, remember, be who you needed when you were younger, but also, please, be who we all need today. Thank you.
Cut it out. I'm already crying. Stop it. Molly, seriously, you're not supposed to make me cry before I start. Thank you. Thank you for having me speak on behalf of the Executive MPA Cohort Class of 2019. Now, come on. All right. And thank you to the families, friends, staff, and faculty who have supported us throughout our journey to get here. So, why do you want to get your graduate degree? What do you hope to get out of it? I think we've all thought about or have been asked these questions over the last 2 years. Our answers are likely similar in many ways: increased knowledge, professional development, leverage to get a new job or a promotion, educational goal achievement. What I didn't anticipate getting out of this degree was a group of inspired and inspiring colleagues who I now affectionately refer to as my Fels fam. Fels fam, you are unwavering in your pursuit of why. Starting with it is one thing, as we learned in the generals class, but you've taught me that keeping your eye on the why is essential to reaching your goals. Reaching for understanding, digging through to find a solution, all with an eye on how to make that solution better and clearly communicated, represents the driven and clarified leadership of this group. You truly want to make a difference, and you aren't afraid to put your whole self into everything you do. That focus made it possible for us to juggle the many moving parts over the last 2 years. We learned we can handle a lot more than we thought we could. We worked, we went to school, all while trying to balance time with family and friends. We tackled subjects that hadn't been on our radar in years, many of us learning or relearning that we're more than happy to leave economics to the experts. But there were also engagements and wedding planning, the arrival of new babies, the start of new relationships, and adjustments to new jobs and homes, which, if it were up to Mr. Jonathan Hendrickson, would all be in Harrisburg, the greatest city in the world. We straddled the real world and the world we created through the pursuit of our dreams. And we kept going because we knew why we were doing it. One of the greatest strengths of this group is in its support of each other, but that doesn't mean we always agreed. No one will ever forget the first weekend of negotiations. We learned so much from each other, even, and maybe especially, in those moments of disagreement. You all challenged me to question my assumptions, see things from new perspectives. Presentation days were my favorite because I learned so much from you. Your passion and knowledge are undeniably inspiring. So, how does all this gushing I'm doing translate into something useful? You, my Fels fam, are the leaders of our local, state, and federal government. You are the leaders of our nonprofit organizations. You are the change makers. You are the holders of our country's future. You lead with a clear purpose and a focused mission. You not only start with why, you're inexhaustible in the defense of it. In a time of uncertainty and frustration, a future with you in the lead gives me an abundance of confidence and hope. It has been my great honor and privilege to learn from and with you. I can't wait to see what you do next. Congratulations, Fels fam. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Karen and Molly, for those really fantastic speeches. So to introduce this year's commencement speaker, please join me in welcoming one of our executive students to the stage, Lauren Bella.
It is a privilege and an honor to introduce our keynote speaker today, United States Senator Chris Coons, representing Delaware. Senator Coons is well known for his deep commitment to civility in governing. He believes that we have the ability to work together to make progress on both the big and small challenges facing our country. I have had the pleasure to interact with Senator Coons through my career in Delaware government and politics. And my classmates have heard me talk incessantly about the Delaware way, how elected officials truly work through their differences to govern. While there is no shortage of disagreements in the first state, at the end of the day, there is a baseline level of respect for one another. And that means an annual budget gets passed and major legislative initiatives are successfully enacted. Now, that can be accomplished more easily in a small state like Delaware, where everyone literally does know everyone. But Senator Coons has brought that mentality with him to Washington, D.C., where he has made it a priority to get to know his colleagues from across the aisle and across the country as people first and lawmakers second. And by developing that level of respect and understanding, it allows them to have serious and meaningful conversations that are necessary to tackle the complex political and policy challenges facing our nation. Civility is not just a nice talking point. It is a way of thinking and acting, and it is necessary to ensure our government is actually addressing the real problems that need attention. Senator Coons is making his mark on Congress with this meaningful commitment that is becoming more and more rare in our polarized political climate. Senator Coons earned his bachelor's degree from Amherst College, a law degree from Yale Law School, a master's degree in ethics from Yale Divinity School. He served as Delaware's Newcastle County executive for 6 years before being elected to the United States Senate in 2010 to fill Vice President Joe Biden's seat. My classmates and I believe that government can be an institution that has a profoundly positive impact on the people they serve. And we have pursued this degree to help us shape our communities through our work in government, nonprofits, and the private sector. It is for these reasons we are honored to have Senator Coons address us today as we receive our Master of Public Administration degrees. And so, without further ado, please help me welcome Delaware Senator Chris Coons.
Good morning. Wow, that really is loud. Good morning. Good morning, and to the Fels class of 2019, congratulations. I've got to tell you, I'm here for one purpose and one purpose only. I need some hope. I need some encouragement. I need something that's going to help me get on the train tomorrow morning and go back to Washington and get back at it and keep making a difference in Washington. And folks, to the faculty, to the parents, to the friends, isn't this class an amazing source of hope and encouragement? Give them a round of applause for what they're launching into today. You know, this is a day that you have worked so hard for, that you've studied, that you've strived, that you've struggled, that you've invested, that you've hoped for. And honestly, this should be a day of immense joy. So I am so grateful for the opportunity to briefly be with you. You know, in the Senate, in the House, we occasionally say, I'd like to associate myself with the remarks of the member from. I'd like to associate myself with the remarks from Molly Williamson and Karen Demos. Can you give them a round of applause, the class speakers? It really is weird kids who help move the world forward. And I do hope you will stay in touch with your Fels fam and listen to each other and sustain each other in your service in the months and years ahead. And to Lauren Vella, thank you, both for the invitation, for the warm introduction, and for what you're doing. Most of you probably don't know Lauren, and she will feature centrally in some of my remarks because the Delaware Way is real. And the community, the exact neighborhood in which she lives, is one of the great exemplars of the Delaware Ways you'll hear in a few moments. And honestly, when I first got to Washington, that spirit of getting to know each other and reaching across the aisle and working alongside each other to fix problems that is so prevalent in Delaware was, well, not exactly the typical way of interacting with each other. Lauren is someone who's gone from being a leader in our General Assembly to being now the policy director for our Attorney General, who is making amazing progress in criminal justice reform. And to Lauren and to Mike, thank you for what you're giving back to our state, and thank you for the invitation today. To Matt Lewandowski, the director of the Fels Institute and the faculty director of the executive MPA program, John Lipinski, and to everybody who is in the faculty, thank you. Thank you for what you've done to challenge, to inspire, to teach, to be role models, to support and engage and challenge this amazing class. So folks, can we give the faculty and the staff of Fels such a strong round of applause? Samuel Fels endowed this institution, I think in 1937. Is that right? Just take a second and think about what was happening in 1937 when he thought we could use an institute to help city government run better and to inspire and engage and challenge and train a group of young leaders to help city, county, state, and hopefully federal government run better. Barely recovering from the worst depression in American history, one that had nearly destroyed the American economy, that had left tens of millions of people without work and without hope. We were just about to be plunged into the greatest armed conflict humankind had ever known. 1937 was a remarkable year to see the promise and the opportunity of a new institute named for Samuel Fels. Some might say that the house is on fire, and I could not agree more. Speaking as someone who goes almost every day to the People's House, to the Capitol in Washington, we face fairly fundamental challenges of hearing each other, of respecting each other, of demonstrating that our democracy works as well today as at any point since it was first penned just there, hundreds of years ago. But I've actually been encouraged and inspired by real and concrete examples of the kinds of people who pitch in, who listen to each other, who compromise, and who make a difference. No, I'm really not talking about Congress. I'm talking about the decade that I spent in county government. I worked for 8 years in the private sector. I worked for a great manufacturing company that invented all sorts of good things. And I helped run an AmeriCorps program when I worked in the nonprofit sector. And then ultimately, a friend who kept telling me and pulling me and pushing me to get into elected office, somehow against my better judgment, persuaded me to run for local office as county council president. My wife and I had 3 children under 3. I had 2 full-time jobs, but it was actually the best experience I've ever had in government. And I want to share 2 quick stories with you that I hope illuminate 2 values that really are at the core of our democracy, of your service, and of the ways in which I believe we can heal what ails our society today. Why did I ultimately go into public service full-time, into government, not just as a hobby or a vocation, but as the purpose and mission of my adult life? Gandhi once said the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service to others. And across my time in the private sector, my time in the nonprofit sector, I kept coming back over and over to that remarkable feeling, that lump in the throat you get when you see people actually come to the table and work out their problems with each other. Having been now to more than 80 countries around the world and serving on the Foreign Relations Committee, I am more deeply convicted today than ever that democracy really is the only way to govern the affairs of women and men here and around the world. But folks, that question is at issue. You may believe in government. I hope you believe in government. You've just gotten a master's degree in how to make government work. But only 17% of Americans in a recent survey believe that government most of the time gets it right. And there is a crisis of confidence in how we work. And if all you do is turn on Fox and MSNBC and CNN and watch how we're not working in Washington, I can understand the skepticism. But there's a neighborhood where Lauren lives. There's a neighborhood in Wilmington that first helped me see the power of compromise and relationships. You know the old phrase, the wrong side of the tracks? Well, there is a railroad track that literally divides my hometown of Wilmington, Delaware. And on one side of the tracks, in this particular area, Little Italy, there's something called the Flats, multifamily affordable housing, first built by a Quaker philanthropist 150 years ago, but some of the most densely populated, low-income housing in our city, and significantly challenged by all the things that come with family dysfunction, with the challenges of poverty, but sustained by good housing, a community really trying to hold itself together. And I was county council president from 2000 to 2004 and county executive 05 to 10, but I found myself trying to help lead the county government at a time when the Delaware way was strained. I will tell you, when I was first elected, we had a governor who didn't like the county executive, a county executive who didn't like the mayor, and all of that mutual love was deeply and widely shared, and lots of finger-pointing, backbiting, and an inability to get things done. On the other side of the tracks from the Flats is one of Delaware's wealthiest neighborhoods, a neighborhood of big, wide, leafy boulevards and big homes. And that railroad track had divided those two communities almost since they'd been built. But you know, there was an interesting and haunting historical footnote. There were footings for a pedestrian bridge to connect those two neighborhoods that had been built in 1937 by the Works Progress Administration, the WPA. The bridge had never actually been finished, but the idea that you could connect these two communities into one had been there, untended and unfinished, for 2 generations. Into this comes an opportunity and a change maker. The opportunity was the DMV where I got my license. It was a 70-year-old rundown building, the Department of Motor Vehicles, where every generation of young Wilmingtonians had gone to get tested and where folks stood in long lines and hoped at some point some clerk would recognize them and give them the grace of a license. That DMV, polluted and old, had been shut down and was empty. And there was a lot of conversation about what's it going to become. Some wanted to develop it commercially to make money for the city. Some wanted to just demolish it and turn it into a park. And Jerry Kelly, an unknown and unheralded city councilman, had a vision for a library and a community center and a garden and a recreational park that would serve both communities on either side of the railroad track. This DMV was right at the edge of the track, and the footings for that pedestrian bridge were just on the other side of it. At first, none of us could see it, none of us. And Jerry patiently and deliberately would go to meetings of city council, go to meetings of county council, plead with his state representative, talk to the governor. I think you probably know how this story ends because I'm telling it today. It took years. And what Jerry Kelly started doing was baking pans of homemade brownies. And to every meeting, he would bring a pan of brownies. And somehow the power of brownies to get people to come and to get people to listen while they were munching was cumulatively powerful. Today, Lauren lives just a few blocks from the Woodlawn Library, and there is a gorgeous pedestrian bridge that bridges that train track. There's a family literacy center that helps those for whom English is not their first language, and there's state-of-the-art computers for job searches, and there's a gorgeous rain garden, and there's a great play area. My own kids got to enjoy playing in it, and it has woven together two neighborhoods that for generations had been divided. What was it that Jerry did? Jerry was humble, he didn't care who got the credit, and he was incredibly persistent. Let me give you one other quick example that teaches me about the values at the core of a healthy democracy. When I was county council president, I was enormously frustrated. The county executive and I didn't exactly get along, and he didn't want me to legislate on anything, fearful that I might get credit for something. Having worked as an advocate in housing before I got into public office, I went to him and said, can we just identify one problem that isn't fixed that I can help try and tackle? Somewhat sneeringly, he said, sure. See if you can pass a rental code. We had 35,000 rental units in suburban Newcastle County, but no rental code that governed them. I said, sure, why is that hard? He said, oh, easy, because the apartment owners and the apartment renters hate each other's guts. With the help of a professor from the University of Delaware's MPA program, I pulled together 80 different people from every possible interest group from across the county. In over a year and a half, we met and we met and we met, we listened and we listened, and we defined the problem. And ultimately, it came down to two people. Chris White, who was the head of the ACLU and a fierce advocate for tenants' rights and was constantly suing. Michael Moore, who was the attorney for the apartment owners and a fierce advocate for free enterprise and the rights of property owners. Ultimately, it took getting these two gentlemen to sit down over breakfast with me over and over, to listen to each other, to build trust with each other, and to get us to yes. The first time that we took the rental code to county council, every single member of this working group had endorsed it. Yet the county executive was able to defeat it. That was a bitter night for me, as nearly 2 years of work went down in flames in a fairly spectacular public fashion. But one of the other core values, I think, of public leadership is persistence and humility. Because at the end of the day, the reason Newcastle County's rental code got passed the next year, and I was able to sign it into law as county executive myself, was because of the relationship between those two men, between Chris and Mike. Michael ended up being in Chris's wedding. They ended up being close personal friends and vacationing together. If you had told me at the very first meeting that these two, who I thought would have gladly taken each other's eyes out with grapefruit spoons if you'd left them alone in a room for a minute, would end up being close friends, I wouldn't have believed it either. But the power of listening, of relationships, and of persistence showed me what's possible in our democracy. Let me tell you briefly, if I could, about some of the challenges I face today in the Senate. My mom, when I was a kid, said, hard work that is worth doing is what gives life meaning. I said to her the other day, my life has an awful lot of meaning right now. As some of you may know, I serve on the Senate Judiciary Committee, and we recently had a confirmation hearing for a guy I've known since law school named Brett Kavanaugh, now a justice on the United States Supreme Court. And that hearing was somewhat contentious. There's a guy from South Carolina. He's a senator. His name is Lindsey Graham. Senator Graham and I had traveled together to Africa, a place of great importance to me. I chaired the Africa subcommittee my first 4 years. And Chairman Graham today is both chairman of the Judiciary Committee and chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee that funds all of our foreign assistance and all of the State Department. Any of you who watched may know that there was a moment of great controversy and contest in this Kavanaugh hearing, where just 10 feet away from me, my friend and colleague Lindsey Graham unloaded on all of us who happened to be on my side of the aisle and my side of that dispute. I was so angry at him, I was so offended by that, I literally couldn't speak to him or shake his hand for 3 weeks. And I have wrestled with it ever since. Lindsey and I appeared at an event a month later that was designed to build support for our foreign assistance program and for our State Department. And in Lindsey's hands rests whether or not President Trump's proposed 30% cut, slashing food aid, closing whole agency missions around the world will happen or not. He came and spoke, and as he was leaving, I came and spoke. And I looked at a room and I said, I bet all of you are asking how it's going between Lindsey and me, and how it is that I'm able to be here and speak jointly with Lindsey about something. I said, there's a guy named Lindsey Graham from South Carolina who unloaded on me and attacked me as a vicious partisan, a man of no principle, a man who wants nothing but power. You can play the tape if you'd like. It's worth a repeat. That guy I'm still mad at. Then there's a Lindsey Graham who last year saved the Food for Peace program, which literally fed 3 million starving children around the world by standing up to the president of his own party, a president immensely popular in his home state. That's Lindsey Graham, who saved my work on the Foreign Relations Committee with Bob Corker, who saved Power Africa, who saved Feed the Future, who saved the MCC program. That Lindsey Graham, I am grateful to, I respect, I even admire. There's only one small challenge. These are not identical twins. This is the same Lindsey Graham. So I am on a path towards finding my way towards reconciliation with Lindsey, something that requires a few things on my part. Humility, a knowledge that I don't always get it right. Forgiveness, an ability to look him in the eyes and to think as the families did who suffered some of the most grievous violence I've ever been exposed to when Dylan Roof gunned down their immediate family members in Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, and found it in their heart and their faith to forgive him for one of the most obscene acts of evil and violence in our country's history. Forgiveness, however, does not mean reconciliation. And the challenge for me, a journey I am still on, is to find my way towards a real working relationship with someone whom I have found so hard to forgive. Folks, we're in a tough time in our country. We're in a place where we're having a hard time forgiving each other and hearing each other. I don't know how your family Thanksgivings have been over the last couple of years, but mine have been filled with both vigorous contests and moments of silence, punctuated by pass the turkey. One year, the 7 sisters who organize our family Thanksgiving structured a pre-fight between me and my active Republican brother-in-law, whom I adore, but who chooses to pick a fight with me, that's my perspective, every single Thanksgiving. The two of us were out in a garage for a good, vigorous half an hour so that everyone else could enjoy Thanksgiving. At the end of the day, you are the folks who have stepped forward. You are the folks who have said, I'm not just interested in sitting on a couch and yelling at the television. I don't just want to like certain things on Facebook. I don't just want to retweet. I want to get up off my couch. I want to get engaged in the fight. I want to work tirelessly to make a difference, and I'm going to make it my life's calling. Some of you came here right out of school. Some of you came here with years of experience in our nation's armed forces, in nonprofit leadership, in city and county and state government. You are an awesome group of young men and women, some almost as old as me. I was using young there with air quotes. You are an awesome group of seasoned and experienced adults who today mark your transition into being a graduate of the Fels Institute. We need you more than we've needed you at any point in my adult life. We need people who believe in the very fundamental calling of our society and our government, which begins, we the people. There was, as you know, an important moment that happened there in an incredibly hot summer. And as has been written and reported, Benjamin Franklin walked out of their deliberations, which had been closed to the public at the time, not exactly a press freedom-friendly moment. And an anxious woman came up to Benjamin Franklin and said, "What form of government do we have?" And he said, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." I have never been so concerned about our ability to keep it as I am today. And exactly the skills and the values and the approach that will be required to keep it, you have. You have learned the technical skills, but most importantly, you've learned how to build and be a community, how to be the Fels fam to each other. Don't forget this. Sustain your journey of service together. It is not the journey of solo adventurers. I will tell you that choosing a career in public service is hard and demanding and difficult work, and your families can say amen. It is not easy, and it is especially not easy in a moment when there are so many other pressures that pull apart those who are elected and those who are leaders in public service. So hold fast to your hope. Hold on to your faith. Believe that compromise is not a bad word. Know that something as simple as a pan of brownies, diligently carried to and from meetings across a community, can bridge a divide that was decades old, and that the hard work that you are embarking on today is the work of bringing meaning, purpose, and change to our lives, to our communities, and to our nation. Thank you for what you are launching yourselves into today and tomorrow. Congratulations, and God bless you in your work.
Thank you, Senator Coons, for those compelling and inspiring words, for being a real role model to our students, and for your years of dedicated service. Hello, everyone. My name is Colleen Bonner, and I'm an Associate Director here at the Fels Institute. And it has been my sincere pleasure to get to know and work closely with these students throughout this year. And I'm honored, along with my colleague, Yuria Chung, to recognize our graduating students by name this afternoon. So graduates, when I call your name, please come up to the stage and to be recognized. The following individuals have completed the requirements for the Masters of Public Administration degree. Madeline O'Brien. Pauline Alvarado. Sarah Otori. Alexandra Bird. Kevin Brown. Anthony Colon. Katrina Comer. Matthew Forrest. Anthony Guido. Yasmin Kabood. Robert Kirkner. Peter Kramer. Christopher McCann. Dan McGurl. Andrea Myers. Stephanie Orlando. Molly Williamson. Jacqueline Perlmeter. Guy Pecho. Helen Robb. Katie Rothenberg. Cordelia Springstub. Hannah Watson. Andrielle Yost. And Liwei Zhang.
Good morning. My name is Yuria Chung, and I have the honor of recognizing the following individuals who are candidates for the Master of Public Administration degree. They will be completing their degree requirement this summer. Rachel Alcott. Christopher Bristow. Aurora Kuhn. Emily DeLeon. Rachel Griffith. Karen Demas. Lauren C.W. Vella. Jonathan Hendrickson. John Infanti. Scott Leffler. Brian Majewski. Jordan Martin. Samantha Matthews. Danielle Perez. Ellen Ramage. Shane Rice. Lauren Sukovich. Alexander Toner. Mark Trilling. Julia Watkins. Lastly, the following individual has completed the requirements for a certificate at the Fels Institute of Government: Lisa Evans Lewis.
Sorry, we have to flip to the right page in my notes. So please join me once again in congratulating the class of 2019. So this concludes the formal part of our ceremony. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. A special thanks once again to Senator Coons and distinguished guests for being with us this morning, and to University of Pennsylvania Glee Club for providing the wonderful music. And thanks, of course, to the Fels staff, Uria, Colleen, and Vince, without whom none of this would be possible. Just a couple of, yes, thank you all. A couple of quick announcements. So we encourage everyone to attend tomorrow's university commencement, where the official conferral of degrees occurs. Commencement begins at 10:15 a.m. at Franklin Field. Graduates are asked to report at 8:45 a.m. to the intersection of Locust Walk and 39th Street, wearing academic regalia. Signs will direct you to the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences assembly area. If you parked in the Constitution Center lot directly below us, please be sure to get a discounted parking voucher from Vince or another member of the staff before you leave. If you do not receive one on your way in, that's very important. You're welcome to leave your car in the lot if you have plans in the city. The lot closes at 6 p.m. Signers Hall, which is directly over there, is open for graduates and guests to explore and take pictures after the ceremony. And lastly, we invite all of you to stay for a reception to begin in just a few minutes to celebrate our graduates. The reception will begin on the overlook immediately following the procession and ends promptly at noon when the museum opens to the general public. Thanks so much to everyone for joining us here today, and congratulations once again to our graduates.
Blue sky smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Bluebirds singing a song, nothing but bluebirds all day long. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-da. Never saw the sun shining so bright, never saw things going so right. Noticing hurrying by when you're in love. My, how they fly. Blue days, all of them gone. Nothing but blue skies from now on. Ba 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 ba. Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Whoa, a bluebird singing a song, nothing but bluebirds all day long. Never saw the sun shining so bright, never saw things going so right. Noticing hurrying by when you're in love. My, how they fly. Blue days, all of them gone. Nothing but blue skies.